Hey, viewers and viewers, my name is Donald Red Strategist, and welcome back to Say Being Hunted. Time for another podcast style episode. We're still on our usual map here, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, only got two islands on this map to clear out. Might as well, keep going for the time being with podcast style episodes, and maybe, you never know, get this map completed and all that. Have another default playthrough of the game, as I seem to do every once in a while and all that. Let's make our way towards the standing stones, and hopefully we don't get caught by riders or anything like, anything bad. Oh, for God's sake, my phone's ringing already into the recording. 1 second all. We're back in. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Never mind that just happened. Completely threw my train of thought, in fact, because I was about to say something and now I've completely forgotten what it was I was going to talk about. But hey, I do obviously a topic in mind for a podcast style episode and all that, for this one that is, and we'll talk about that in a wee second. I don't know why I'm going Scottish all of a sudden, I just am. But anyway, apologies if my voice is a little bit hoarse, as it tends to, often be. Recording this in the evening as usual, doesn't have to work and all that. It's been a busy day actually, because I was in doing seminar teaching throughout the morning. Then I was sort of on reserve standby for a lecture in the afternoon, and then had to join a Q&A panel for another lecture in the afternoon. So it's been quite a busy day, ladies and gentlemen. So if my voice starts to go, if it sounds like it's breaking and I'm hitting puberty again, then that's why, ladies and gents. Now, hopefully these robots aren't going to be too much of a problem as I go over and start depositing these device pieces. But no, what I actually had in mind, what I was just thinking about actually before I started this recording. Obviously last episode, Phil joined me and we did another of those kind of episodes where he just asked me a variety of questions, fun little questions, that kind of thing, little bits of stuff to think about. And one of those questions obviously was all about food, talked about foods that we would sort of try and improve in certain ways. I need to be careful here. Obviously, I talked about obviously like sweet potato fish pie, that kind of thing. Once you eat sweet potato, you never go back and all that. But it got me sort of thinking as well about childhood foods, because I was starting to think about weird recipes that I remember from childhood, or just weird meals and things I ate as a kid, which probably would actually make for a weirdly entertaining video. Because I was sort of thinking, right? Everyone when there was a kid probably had that one odd meal. Oh my god, what are you doing? Go away. Get out of it. I'm about to try and talk about food, boy. Get out of here. Oh god, they are shooting like crazy. And the landowner is right there, having me to go this way. Oh fuck's sake, there's more robots over there. Of course there would be. It's late in the game, alright. Oh god, they're all alerting. Right, well, I think I'm going the right direction anyway. But yeah, food, when you're a kid. Everyone usually has sort of, that one meal, comfort meal, something like that their parents cooked for them when they were young. And you remember it. It wasn't anything particularly special, but you know what? When you're a kid, you don't want anything, especially special, do you? You just want something that tastes delish, or whatever. And so I remember as a kid, my old mother, she would rustle up some good meals and all that back in the day. And what I'm about to outline now, either people will listen to this, they'll hear it and they'll go, you know what, that sounds like a weird combination of foods, but I actually kind of want to try it. Or you're going to hear it and you're going to be thinking, what the hell, Red? What on earth is that? What are you talking about? But when I was a little kid, and when I say a little kid I mean, a very, very, very young kid, not even 10 years old, I had a favourite dish, a favourite meal, and it was macaroni with corned beef, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking about that and you're probably thinking, good God, corned beef? Red? What the hell were your childhood taste buds like? And I have to say, in defence, as a kid, I always just found it very filling. You know, corned beef is one of those meats which, to be, entirely honest, sometimes people hear the name and they go, ugh. And that's not entirely undeserved. I mean, corned beef is not something you should be eating on the regular at all. But basically the recipe in essence was you get corned beef, create like a bed of corned beef, you get maybe a tin of baked beans, and you sprinkle it all over the corned beef. You get some cooked macaroni that you've just, whizzed up in a pan. You layer that on top, and then you put cheese on it, and then you whack it in the oven for a while and bake it up, and that's corned beef macaroni, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I know what you're thinking, listening to this, some of you no doubt. You're probably sat there thinking, good God, that sounds incredibly fattening. It sounds kind of like slop. And to be honest, yes, it's a bit sloppy, but it's not supposed to be anything fancy. It was just supposed to be silly comfort food, and for that end, it pretty much sufficed. And you know what? 6-year-old me couldn't get enough of it, okay? Because I was 6 years old, for fuck's sake, right? I mean, who out there seriously is saying that when they were 6 years old they were a, connoisseur of gourmet or whatever? No, you weren't, right? Anyone who sits there and claims that, no. You're a dirty, rotten liar. Just saying. But yes, corned beef macaroni was the shiz when I was a kid. Freaking loved that stuff. I can't even remember where my mum got the recipe for it from. I think she must have just seen it in like a freaking magazine. Recipes you can cook when you're low on ingredients and you're just using whatever's in the fridge or whatever. But you know what? It worked. The thing is, I remember seeing my mum experimented with it a bit. There was a point where she replaced the beans with garden peas. Probably to try and get, something healthy actually in there. Something that's got a few vitamins in it, other than just beans and corned beef. Which is good. But as an adult, I actually recently tried to remake that recipe, and it came out alright. It makes a lot of it though. That's the only problem here in the UK. Whenever you buy tins of corned beef, they're always pretty big. You can get slightly smaller ones, but even then, the smaller ones still give you loads. And so you end up with enough portions for at least 2 people, or whatever. But then again, I mean, corned beef is one of those meats that you can sort of cook. And you can have it hot or cold. So what you can do with that, obviously, is, make yourself a batch, eat half of it, and, let the other half cool down, then put it in the fridge. Store it, That is indeed something that one can do. And it works. You do that shiz, and then you've got, 2 meals and all that. But I was also thinking, obviously, about, childhood foods and all that. I was thinking there was another one that I remember from my youth, when I was a very, very little kid. Just a wee little nipper. And this wasn't something that my parents would ever cook. This was something special. This was something I would often have whenever we went out for a restaurant meal. Because basically, where I grew up, in the northwest of England, there used to be this pub restaurant, not too far from where we lived. In fact, the name of the restaurant, fuck it, I'll say it. The name of the restaurant, it was called the Boar's Head. And, that makes it sound like a classic English pub, which it kind of was. Like I say, it was a pub restaurant. And I remember many, many times throughout my youth, my sort of mother's side of the family, whenever we had big family get-togethers, we would often go to the Boar's Head for meals, for lunches or for evening meals or whatever. And obviously, being a young kid, you would always order from the kids' menu. And, typically kids' menus in pub restaurants here in the UK, they'll have things like, mini fish and chips, or like fish fingers and chips, or little sausage and chips. Basically a lot of stuff that has chips. Simple, easy food for kids, in essence, is what I'm getting at there. And I always remember, on the kids' menu at this restaurant, they had a kids' meal, and it was called fish whale, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you're probably wondering what that is. You can probably guess, obviously, it's a fish meal. It comes with chips. But the fish whale that gives it its name, obviously it's not just like a breaded fillet of fish. It's a breaded fillet of fish shaped like a whale. And I always remember as a little kid, I would always order that. It would come with a little bit of chip, few little chips, the big fish whale itself, a few peas, that kind of thing, which is all you need as a kid, right? And then afterwards, for dessert, they always had an option on the dessert menu that was like little, these little, you get like a little plate with these 4 little sort of warm donuts and this like chocolate dipping sauce. And as a kid, I would always order that. Whenever I went to that restaurant, I know it's boring, it's the same old thing over and over. When you're a kid, you're not that adventurous necessarily. You just want the same old shiz, don't you? Most of the time, in all honesty. And that's what I always did at the Boar's Head, ladies and gentlemen. Just going to direct them over there. Keep them going over that way. Yeah, so I would always order that from this restaurant. But the sad fact about that restaurant is it's no longer there. Basically, I remember when I was, I think, when was this? This was several years ago. I think, in fact, yeah, not just several, this was actually quite a few years ago. This would have been before I moved down south to live with, to take up my current job. Basically, I remember the last time I went there, the place was actually struggling. I went basically with close family. We went to like a pub quiz night. And, there were a few people there, a few other customers, but everything I'd heard was that this place, the Boar's Head, was kind of struggling financially, and it was probably going to go out of business. And so that was the last time I remember going. And then several months after that visit, there was a fire, ladies and gentlemen. The place burnt down. And I'm not alleging anything here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this at all, that I believe this. But, as you can imagine, in the local community, there were a few people who started whispering that they thought, no, that's not an accident. A lot of people suspected that there could be something more to it, that maybe someone burnt it down for the insurance money or something. But like I say, I'm not alleging anything there, right? I have no evidence of that, just saying. But it's just a silly little story. People in the local community used to whisper, from what I understand. And like I say, I didn't really participate in any of those whispers myself. And I'm not alleging anything there. I'm just reporting what people, namely gossips, in the local community were saying at that time. But yes, the place basically burnt down, in essence. And since then, I think it spent quite a few years, basically just an empty shell. Just burnt down shell of what it had once been. And for a longest time, there was like a local campaign from people who wanted to keep it, have it restored to what it was. But those campaigns basically just went nowhere. And a lot of people were just like, no, why? It's burnt down. Nobody's going to do anything with it. Just knock the thing down and just develop the site, which is, of course, what eventually happened to it. Because today, there's basically there's like new built homes or whatever it is on that site where the Boar's Head used to stand. This is all very local stuff. If you didn't live in the northwest of England where I sort of grew up, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But that's not really the point. It's more just a nostalgic story and all that. Because you know me, I seem to be engaging in lots more nostalgic stories in my So You're Being Hunted podcast episodes these days. But yes, the other restaurant that I actually do remember a lot from my youth, which, come to think of it, my mother's side of the family increasingly started going here after a certain point. I think probably once most of their sort of grandkids, and myself included, had sort of got to a point where we were over 10 years old. We started going to an Italian restaurant not far from the village of Scorton. It used to be called Quattro's, ladies and gentlemen. It changed hands quite a few times, this restaurant. But back in the day when I was a kid, it was called Quattro's. It was an Italian restaurant, and that was kind of like, where we went after the kids started getting older and all that. The grown-up restaurant. Because prior to that, whenever family had been out to this particular restaurant, they'd never taken the kids with them, because obviously that's more of an adult thing and all that. Freaking scarecrow over there. But yes, I always remember though as a kid, being 11 years old, going out to this particular Italian restaurant. The only thing I would ever order from there was like a pizza margherita. I was never adventurous as a young kid. But then again, I don't think you ever are you, as a young kid? You're never that adventurous. You have the things that you like, and that's what you try and stick with, in essence. You don't want to, really, go too adventurous and all that, because you're worried you won't like something. It's only really as you get older that, you know, your taste buds start to diversify. Well, I think that's the case for most people. That's not to say everyone has that. I know of people who, you know, when I was getting older, towards 18 or whatever, whose taste buds still stayed incredibly childlike in certain respects, and they would still not eat certain things. Like one guy I remember actually, when I was, you know, about, how old would I have been, 16? 15, 16, so around there. I remember one guy I knew who was a bit older than me, must have been like 19 years old. Well, this is not the time for you to start having a shootout with the landowner, thank you very much. You just go over there, thank you. Oh god, careful. Just going to throw that to send them off in that direction. Okay, luckily they're going for him. Will he attack them? I don't think the landowner ever attacks the regular robots, does he? No, he doesn't. He just sort of looks around awkwardly. You know, we've always sort of had that debate in Surrey Being Haunted, haven't we? About how many hit points does the landowner actually have, given that he's effectively invincible in this game. It always makes me wonder if one day I should do an experiment which I should try and get the other robots to aggro on him and just try and keep shooting him. But then again, depending on how many hit points he has, well, I always assumed the way, obviously, it worked in series that he has technically a finite amount of hit points, but they're so high that in effect he's invincible, because realistically you can't kill him, because you just won't have enough ammo or whatever. But then again, like the robots, you know, they have unlimited ammo pretty much in this game, so you don't need to worry about them, do you? Oh my god, you know, I was just thinking about childhood food and eating, and I just had a weird random thought, a random memory that just came into my head. I knew a guy in freaking high school who used to eat crayons. High school, ladies and gentlemen. This was at GCSE level, when we were freaking 15 or 16 years old. I'm not joking. I don't know why this thought just came from, this memory just came into my head. I can still picture him to this day. GCSE art class. We were sat at the back of the classroom, and I was just minding my own business, doing my work. I look around at the table behind me, and he sat there freaking shoving crayons in his mouth. God, that was a random memory to suddenly just pop back into my brain. Where did that guy end up? I'm pretty sure that guy, actually, come to think of it now that I think about it, I think he became a cook or a chef at a restaurant. So evidently his tastes got better, you know. Evidently he developed a taste for more than just Crayola crayons. Yeah. I just have a weird mental image of him sat there in our art class with a freaking purple Crayola in his mouth or something. Ugh, weird. Some kids are just odd, you know, and you think that when they hit the teenage years, they would stop being odd. But no, they don't stop being odd. I mean, the thing is, my sibling works in a high school. She's not a teacher. She's an admin staffer. But basically, the story she tells about teenagers and just how fucking weird they sometimes can be. I'm sorry if there's any teenage viewers out there, but let's be honest, many of you probably agree, right? Many of you agree, teenagers, weird, right? I look back on when I was a teenager and the teenagers surrounding me when I was in high school, weird, okay? We were all weird. We were bizarre, alright? If you're a teenager and you think you're not weird, no, you're weird. Just saying, you just don't realise it yet. You haven't yet got to that point in life where you look back on your teenage years and cringe and think, God, what was I doing? And all that. You'll have that moment, don't you worry. Unless you have no self-awareness, in which case you'll keep on doing weird things into your adulthood and all that. Alright, well, you know what, I think that'll probably do for an episode, won't it, ladies and gentlemen? Still obviously a piece of the device on this island, that's fine, we can find it next episode and all. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed me just rambling on about food. Weird food and things from my youth and all that. Let me know if corned beef macaroni sounds like something you'd be interested in eating. Ugh, yes. It tastes nice, alright. I tried it again as an adult and it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Yes, it's weird, yes, it's a bit sloppy, but you know what, it's comfort food. Sometimes that's all you need, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being very irrationally defensive. Okay, social media links, propagandist channel link, etc, etc, down the video description below, along with the link to my propagandist channel for anyone interested, blah blah blah. Like if you enjoyed the video, blah blah blah, you know the drill by now. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. Sort of some weird like space-time shenanigans going on here. John fell through at an earlier time, because John went clearly before we did. Is there some sort of time shenanigans going on? He fell through time and came out far earlier. That makes sense.
Holy shit! What are those?
What's what? I don't see anything. Who are you seeing? Okay, that's what you were seeing. It was perfectly blending into the fucking blackness. Oh